I mean, the reality in the Senate is a determined 50-vote majority in the Senate with the vice president tie-breaking can do whatever they want. They could overrule her. They can sort of circumvent her with rulings made from the presiding officer that just ignore her rulings in the first place. But Majority Leader Thune has been quite firm that he does not want to do that. He sees it as part of a slippery slope to getting rid of the filibuster altogether. It's not clear whether they have the votes for that, based on those concerns about undermining the overall kind of operating procedure of the Senate from some of the moderates who are kind of committed to the place from an institutional perspective. So for all intents and purposes, her rulings are going to be binding and are going to require the party to scramble around coming up with alternatives.
So the scramble begins. They're looking for alternatives. I guess a synonym for that is cuts. Where are these cuts going to come from?
Yeah, so, the biggest two holes that have been blown in the fiscal math by the Parliamentarian in recent days are, on the one hand, she threw out about $270 billion worth of health provisions anchored by the more aggressive reductions in provider taxes in the Senate bill versus the House. And on the other hand, she threw out at least the applicability to current borrowers of the biggest cut to student loans in the bill that would force everyone into a streamlined and less generous pair of repayment options. So, on the latter front, it seems pretty clear that they're going to redirect that prospectively. I think they will just lose some savings there, as we saw with SNAP, where they kind of came back with a less aggressive option. On Medicaid, it will be a question whether or not they feel like they need to go find some additional healthcare cuts to backfill workers' loss.
This is like a Marcus Gura wonk fest.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take us there.
Tobin, let me cut to the chase.
Get us to Nat Socks on July the 4th.
Yeah, the president's MO is to blow things up and ignore process. Can the president say to the gentleman from Pierre,
I think.
Pierre, okay.
Yeah.
For the gentleman from Pierre and the gentleman from Shreveport, do what I do and ignore the Parliamentarian. Can that actually happen?
So he could try. He hasn't really. There have been some calls to fire her from various Republicans in the House. But I don't think that is going to work. I don't think that there's the support for that in the Senate. So, it's just going to be a question of counting votes. Returning to Newtonian physics, I suppose. For every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And they are hemmed in at both sides of the conference on Medicaid, on IRA. It's sort of hard to move it too much in either direction without losing votes on the other side.